so young in that intro there, huh? Hey, welcome to FinTips. This is a series that we do real short, quick tips just to get you to think a little bit, maybe go talk to your advisor, whoever's helping you with your dough, so that you can get your dough straight because, well, we're all on our own these days, so we've got to do what we can to help. So here we go. If I just blindly asked you to pick a mutual fund, any mutual fund, just a brand name, just whatever, what do you think the best mutual fund is? You probably just said Vanguard. I'm pretty confident. If I had to bet you candy, I would bet you just said Vanguard. Well, is Vanguard the best? I mean, in reality, generally speaking, they're known as the low-cost sort of bulk provider, right? If you don't need a lot of help, you just want the cheapest possible thing, all right, cool. They're going to have an option for you, and lots of options I would add to that. But I maintain that everybody has a different position, and maybe you should go with a different fund because you can handle more volatility. Maybe you're looking for a higher yield, and these guys may be a touch more, but if you took the net return and look at the total return, yeah, you end up with more money. Let's go with that one. Now, we don't use mutual funds here at Jazz. We actually build our own funds that have no expense ratios, right? So you can participate, you actually own the stocks and everything, but you're not being charged for it, right? So it just grows whatever it grows to, and that's all you. What I like to do is talk about my funds. If I had to choose mutual funds, and if I'm looking at a client's 401k or something like that, what funds am I looking for? Well, usually there's a limited list, but I get real excited when I see T. Rowe Price's funds, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way. We don't participate with them. They've never called me. I only know one guy in that company, really, maybe two. But this is not, a promotion on their part at all. I'm actually going to show you the data so you can take it with you, whatever you'd like. Now, I looked at the, I looked at the first fund that I always hear about is the Vanguard Wellington Fund. Right? You hear a lot of people promote it. You say, well, this is the fund, you got to go with the Wellington Fund. Can we do better? How much better is it than anything else, right? Let's take a look. So here's what I came up with. I'm going to show you how I scanned for this. I'm going to bounce around a little bit. The first thing I did is I said, there are 67,289 funds out there. All right. I would like to look for strictly mutual funds that it eliminates all the closed-end funds there. So 49,159 is what we get. Now I know the Wellesley Fund. I know the Wellesley Fund is a large cap blend. So I said, all right, let's get rid of everything but large cap blend, 18,571. That was an extra step. I didn't need to do that. I then said, okay, I'm looking for the fund family of Vanguard funds. I found 101 of them. And then I said, go ahead and add in any T. Rowe Price funds, right? So now I've got just T. Rowe Price, open-ended, large cap blend funds, and Vanguard. Now, the Vanguard Wellesley Fund considers itself an allocation type fund, and they themselves say we're 50 to 70% equity. It's very common, actually. So what we've boiled this down to is find me any fund that is a T. Rowe Price fund, Vanguard fund that fits the criteria of an allocation fund from 50 to 70%. There are 15 of them. So we went from 67,289 down to 15. Here are the 15 here. So you can see all of them there. Now, one thing you're going to notice real quick is that some of these are duplicates. They are just different classes of funds, right? I don't know why you would pick one over the other. They're different classes. They have different costs. So what I did is I put together the performance and lots of other stats I'm going to share with you, but I took out any duplicates. So like the institutional funds, I left those. Those are usually cheaper. But if there's another one that's exactly the same but a different class, I just took those out, right? So you're going to notice that we have 2 capital appreciations, 2 blended, 2 spectrum, another capital appreciation. Oh, that's the other one. We've got, Vanguard's got 2 balanced, no, actually 3 balanced funds that they have. They got their Admiral in there. We've got just 1 star. We've got the managed allocation, which is sort of like the life strategy there. And then we've got the Wellington and the Wellington Admiral. No need to include both of them. I chose the Wellington Admiral. It's the cheaper one. It's usually what I hear people say. And the reason I say that is because I'm actually going to go over here. Here is all that data broken down into maybe a nice colorful way that's easy to understand. All right, so we've got mutual funds here. T. Rowe Price has 2 that fit the criteria that are not duplicates. Vanguard has the rest of them. All right, the first thing I'm going to do, I might just go backwards here. So all the way off to the right, everybody's going to look at expense ratios. So T. Rowe Price, their 2 funds rank as the most expensive. And it's by a 0.5%, right? 0.2 to 0.5%, so it's not necessarily a small amount. So we've got to ask for decent returns that could outpace Vanguard, or we have to find other reasons why we wouldn't use Vanguard in the first place. All right, we've got dividend yields here. They actually almost rank in order. So the Vanguard Wellington Admirals currently, as of right now, sitting at 1.8%. You work your way all the way down to 1.0. If dividends important to you, then we'll stick around. I'll kind of explain this in a little more detail. Most people look at returns. If you're looking at returns, the Capital Appreciation Fund that fits in this category just blows it away by more than the expense ratio spread, by more than the miss on the dividends there, which you wouldn't factor that in because that's ever changing. Balanced fund, 9.5%. You got 10% here for the balanced Vanguard funds. Vanguard managed allocation, which is, like I said, it's kind of like a target date fund, so not crazy that's on. I wouldn't give them a hard time. Life Strategy, also kind of a target date fund, and the Wellington's at 10%. So you got first place T. Rowe, and then Wellington comes in second. Yeah, sure does. All right, next you have the up to down ratio. It's actually called the upside downside ratio. And I went over this in a notes from Jazz, our Wine and Wealth class that we did the other day. The upside downside ratio is how often, what's the ratio between when the market is moving up, it outpaces, but then on the downside, when the market's moving down, it does not outpace. So that's the upside downside ratio. It's used by mutual fund analysts all the time because they want to see, all right, it's great that you could pick stocks and you got good return there, but how much did you beat the market or the benchmark on the way up, and how little did you fall on the way down relative to the benchmark? And that's where fund managers sort of get their brownie points, right? They don't look at returns so much. That's a given. If you can't perform, you're out. But that is the finer way to look at it. So upside down ratio, basically, T. Rowe Price wins this all day long in any category you're going to look at. It's one of the reasons I like these funds. On the way up, it is beating its benchmark, which I think is just the S&P for these. It's beating the benchmark, but then on the way down does not beat it, doesn't fall as much. So it goes up more and falls less. You start looking down the list here, the balanced fund is basically flat. It moves right in line with the markets there. Vanguard's doing pretty good here with their balanced funds, actually. And then as you work your way down, I'm really comparing this to the Wellington. I think I said Wellesley earlier, so I'm comparing this to the Wellington fund. So 1.18%. So right there, you're already looking at this going, all right, if I'm going to get better returns, skip the dividend yield because it's not big difference there and it's going to be changing. But if I'm getting better annualized returns, annualized 12.8% over 10 years, and I'm going to participate more on the upside and less on the downside, well, that's an emotional statistic right there. You may not care, but it's an emotional statistic there, so that's kind of interesting. They beat. Max Drawdown is very close to the same, and to be fair, any of these in this category should be around here. That just starts to tell you these funds here, they're on the lower end. Remember earlier we said 50 to 70% allocation? If you look up those funds, they're probably going to have a history of being more around 50% equity, and that's why their Max Drawdown and their performance is a little bit weak. It's not that they're bad, so whether it's Vanguard or T. Rowe, I'll give it to both of them there. They're probably on the 50%. I didn't have a way to filter that out. All right, standard deviation of the returns in general. In other words, how often, when we're going to make the 12%, how often are we plus or minus on wide ends of the spectrum to where we've got to sit through that volatility? And you're going to find that standard deviation of returns is more spread out on T. Rowe Price funds. In general, volatility is going to be higher. Volatility is going to be higher on T. Rowe Price funds because they go for it a little bit more. Vanguard is known for being a little more conservative, so they're not going to go for it as much to oversimplify the terminology. And so you're always going to see a wider standard deviation of returns on T. Rowe Price's funds. If you can't handle that, then you discount this whole video here. But nonetheless, the Vanguard Wellington fund is not the best either, but these aren't bad numbers. I wouldn't give it a hard time. I would give this one a hard time because I was looking into the Vanguard Star Fund. Something's wrong there, right? They're taking a little bit too much risk. If you're the fund manager of this fund, you're looking across these metrics going, it's not impressive. I don't know. I'm impressed on the top. I'm impressed on the bottom. This is not really impressive. All right, and then the 10-year alpha versus its peers is basically what's the level of outperformance versus the other funds that are out there. It's just a fancy way of saying that. You got a group of people playing basketball or something, which player's scoring more points along the way versus its peers, not versus the world, not versus NBA teams, WNBA teams, just versus its direct peers there, which in this case would be the list that we're showing here. And so T. Rowe Price outperforms hands down by a factor of 2 almost. And so when you're looking through some of these funds, don't always just go with Vanguard, right? Now, this is a little bit geeky analytics for this, but in general, if you look at that, now if we take this step further, if this video is interesting to you guys, if we take this step further and maybe go to the Wellesley fund, which is a little bit lower, maybe we just move on to different funds, you can kind of start to see that T. Rowe Price just doesn't have the brand recognition, but they kill it. Their blue chip fund is phenomenal. I mean, across the board, I love their funds. Now, let me just show you here the growth. So this should come up nicely. Okay. So what I did is I took that same list of funds and then we just plotted them to show their total return with everything included. This is all historical dividends and everything. Sorry, their historical returns in total. Let's put it all in there and see what we end up with if we'd invested $10,000. Yeah. So we're looking over 10 years here, annualized returns, just so you can see they're the same numbers that were on the spreadsheet there. The T. Rowe Price Capital Fund, 12.8% was the best performer. And now you just kind of put it into dollars, right? You can kind of see this and go, okay, this is a target date fund down here. This probably could have been filtered out. The bulk of the group is in here. And then all of a sudden, you've got Wellington up here, but T. Rowe Price blowing it out of the water, right? As far as the 50 to 70% allocations there. So I didn't pick this because I knew T. Rowe Price had the best like 50 to 70% equity allocation fund. I picked it because I kept hearing Wellington. And I just thought, if it's the best, then let's actually do a video on that. But if we find something different, well, let's talk about that, right? So at the end of the day, compare Vanguard to what other options you have. And I'll be honest with you, 85% of the time, you're going to find stuff that's not as good. It might have similar returns, but it will have that higher cost. You're not often going to find higher returns, maybe a competitive dividend yield, lower costs that are not as low as Vanguard, but still really good, that will outperform as a total return, on a total return basis. So T. Rowe Price, every time I seem to check them out, has been able to do that. And so I just thought I'd point that out to you. Doesn't mean you go buy a T. Rowe Price fund. Just showing you data. You take with it what you will, like it or hate it. And I'll just hope that you'll hit the subscribe button for us putting all this time into this. That really helps us out. We can continue to do more if you like. Leave a comment below. If I can't respond to it, which often I can't, then at least I can see them and maybe we can move on to a different class and try some different things there. Enjoy the rest of your day.